Welcome to another episode of the Jimmy Rex Show. I'm super excited today. I'm sitting here with one of my mentors, Mr. Rand Rasmussen, longtime coach of the Bingham Miners. Rand, it's a pleasure to be here with you, bud.
I'm glad, and I'm happy to be here myself. I was telling people earlier, I played in front of 107,000 people in Japan. I also had a ground ball go between my legs off turf, which is impossible. But anyway, I'm more nervous about this than I am about playing.
Well,
the game,
it's
so.
nothing to be nervous about. Rand, this is a podcast about exceptional people. The reason I invited you to be on. Rand is actually in 2-3 months is going to graduate his final year as a teacher, 30 years, full retirement. But even more impressive to me, you also coached the girls basketball team for over 30 years and baseball as well. So you've got, between the two sports, over 60 years of coaching, 9 state championships, and it's a pleasure to be here. You are definitely the definition of an exceptional person, Rand.
Now, what I do is I'm lucky and fortunate enough to be in the right spots. I have tremendous parents who would let me coach the way I feel like coaching, tremendous kids that buy into the situation. I don't teach a me situation. So if you took a piece of wood and you carved me in it, if you turn it upside down, that's what I'm trying to get at because it says we. So I've been very fortunate. And I actually, now you bring that up about these state championships in basketball, I didn't score any of the points. I didn't get any of the rebounds. So, yes, I might have pushed a button here and there, but
Well, the thing I love about you, Rand, so in 2009, I don't know if you knew why I got into coaching high school baseball. Had been volunteering at some different, the Boys and Girls Club. I volunteered at the Center for Women and Children in Crisis. And to be honest with you, I didn't feel like I was making much of an impact. And so I decided, I said, you know what, I love baseball. I'm going to go volunteer coach high school baseball. And I looked up who'd won the most games over the last 5 years, and it was Bingham and Lone Peak. And I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I want to learn from the best. So I didn't know you guys. You didn't know me.
No
I literally just came in and asked if I could coach. My brother had been the 2-time state MVP at Taylorsville, won a couple of state championships, and so you knew him. But you guys gave me a shot. I think I was like the 9th or 10th coach on the staff, but I just wanted to suck up as much information as I could, and thankfully you guys gave me an opportunity to come and do that. Well, do you remember that when I first came in?
I do. Well, it's funny how it worked out because things have a way of working themselves out. For the people that don't know that, our head coach is in the National Baseball High School Hall of Fame.
Well, and stop you there. Rand 2 years ago just got inducted into the Utah High School Coaches Hall of Fame. Amazing ceremony I got to go to, and pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was fun, and you feel good about that, but it's more about the kids that you work with that get you to that point. And I think there was some fate involved with you that you came to the place where Coach Sotto is known all over the bloody country. So if you're going to learn from a pretty good guy.
Well, in everything that I do, Ty Lopez is very good at this now. He's an online influencer, and he just finds the person that's the best at it and goes and sucks up as much information can and become a little bit of a mini expert at
Absolutely.
it. So, if I said, I knew that I played baseball at Murray. I had a fun career and everything else, but I saw what you guys were doing at Bingham. And it was funny because I thought I'd be coaching like 10 or 15 hours a week. And I got here, and that was Saturday. It was like I literally became a full-time job for about 3.5, 4 months.
Yep.
But I coached with you guys 2009, 10, and 11, and I think we won one state tournament. The next year, you won another one. Some of the funnest years of my life. But so tell us a little bit about that. So you got into coaching, literally over 40 years ago, and before that, you played. You were actually a first-round draft pick. Tell us a little bit about that, growing up and getting drafted. And
I was lucky. I was brought up in what I think the hotbed of baseball in the country is, which is Southern California. So I played for my dad all the way up to a certain point, and at 12 years old, he didn't think he could take me any further. So what he did was made sure I played for the right people. If that was in your town, fine. But if it wasn't in your town, he was going to get me to the right places where I would learn the game the right way, all the different sports. Got drafted in high school. I don't remember what round it was, 18th round, I think. Junior college, got drafted in the 6th round, then got drafted in the 1st round. I'll just tell you, I'm kind of proud of that, but at the same time, that was 40 years ago and probably, I don't know, about 45 pounds ago at the same time. So
Yeah, you
no
were
big deal. Water under the bridge.
And a first round draft pick in baseball. You played. You told me some stories. You played with Dave Winfield.
Mm-hmm.
Who's some of the other players?
I played in Fairbanks, Alaska, which was the best place to play in between your junior and senior year of college. Dave Winfield, Jay Smith, Jackson Todd, who went with the Rangers for a long time. My 14-year-old Pony League All-Star team won the United States. Jeff Burrows was on our team, who was American League Player of the Year, I think 73, 74. But when you play in Southern Cal, you play against and with a lot of really good players. So I was fortunate.
Yeah. So playing with Dave Winfield, because were you guys roommates?
We were roommates on a couple road trips, yes.
Okay. And how was he as a friend and roommate teammate?
Awesome. Awesome. Now, you got to remember, Winfield was involved in the fight between Minnesota and Ohio State in basketball. And so we would get into these discussions all the time. And we both had different viewpoints coming from different cultures and different backgrounds and how things would be. But as far as being competitors, I got along great with Dave, but I wouldn't listen to some of the things he wanted to talk about. And he probably didn't want to listen to some of the things I talked about.
That
so,
sounds fair.
Yeah, he was awesome.
So you get into coaching. I mean, tell us a little bit about it. Like, what's your favorite thing about coaching? Why spend? I mean, you dedicated your entire life to helping high school kids. What was it about that got you into?
I think it's trying to pay back some of the people that spent a lot of time with me when I was younger and helping me form into who I am at this point, as a ball player at that time and as a teacher at this point. And I think I'm trying to pay a little bit of them back for the amount of time they took away from their families to spend with me. I don't know, what's the movie called, Pay It Forward? I think that's probably what I'm doing. And I do enjoy it. I really enjoy, honestly, and I love coaching baseball. I enjoyed the girls. I don't have any daughters. I don't have any sisters. When a boy gets done with baseball season, he shakes your hands and says, "Thanks a lot, Coach. I really appreciate it." Girls hug. I've never had that in my life because I haven't had any daughters. I haven't had any sisters. And it feels good when they're so appreciative of what you're doing. A lot of times the guys think they may know as much as the coach. They don't. But they think they do. Girls don't think that way. They think about having a great relationship with their coach, having fun, being better at what we do, and to be a team. So I enjoy the baseball, don't get me wrong, but I really enjoy coaching my girls, and I miss that part.
Yeah. Well, because you stopped coaching girls about, 4 years ago?
2013.
Okay. And what was the decision where you got cancer? Mm-hmm. And tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, I had one.
You've beat it now, right?
I have.
Completely beat it?
My wife, I had a freckle, and I thought it was a freckle. She goes, "We need to get that checked." And I go, "Okay, well, we'll go get it checked." So you go in and they freeze it and they cut it off. And he says, "I'll call you in a couple of days." So I'm at practice 2 days later, and the doc calls me. He says, "I need to see you." And I go, "Well, I'm in the middle of practice. I'll come and see you tomorrow." He goes, "No, I need to see you now." So I had to leave practice, go over there, and they found a melanoma. And so what they do is they go in and then they do tests, and they kept finding them. They found 3 of them. They got to the here, there wasn't. So they knew it was only from here on up. So I went in and had 28 radiation treatments. Actually, cancer's a really good diet. I lost 40 pounds.
Yeah.
But I lost all the feeling on the side of my face, which I still don't have back. I only have to shave half of my face now because the bristles don't grow back. You go in for your 3-month scan after that, and they found about the size of a quarter in my right lung, right in the middle. Said they go and take that out and have to take a third of my lung out as well. Go back for your scans, and they found about the size of a tennis ball in my stomach, and they took that out. So then I started on a drug called Opdivo. It's an intravenous drug into your arm, and it's 28 times or 26 every other week for a year at about $17,000 an hour. And went back for my 3-month scan, nothing. Went back for my 3-month scan, nothing. Went back for my 6-month scan, nothing. My next one's June 4th. I think if I beat this one, they'll put me on year.
Well, that's great.
So I'm doing good.
Awesome.
I'm doing real good.
Awesome.
I will tell you something a little bit about that, though. When you have something like that, there are days where you really like to be in the fetal position. I had one day like that, but I do want to tell this story because this is the truth. I am walking into one of my last treatments, and this voice behind me, and I'd had a bad day. I felt like, why me? Why don't you just give it to ISIS? Somebody that's a bad person. Why are you giving it to me? You know? This voice behind me yells at, "Hey, Brand," and I'd met this person before. She goes, "I've only got 18 more chemotherapy treatments." Her name is Trina. She has no hair, and she was 4 years old. I have not had a bad day. I have not gotten into the fetal position since that day because if that little one can do it, I'm going to do it. She's my big motivator. Haven't seen her since. but she's my motivator. So
That kind of puts it into perspective.
absolutely, and the whole time I'm asking the Lord, give me hers, because I don't think I have a chance of living 66 more years. She's 4. That's not even fair. So I handle every day as it comes along, and I work out hard at Vasa. And when it comes back, and I'm going to guess it will, because it comes back to 75% of the people, let's play. Let's go again.
Well, that's one of the things I love about you is and kind of back up when I first met you. I consider you one of my mentors. Me and you have had so many one-on-one late night discussions and talked all the time. But when I first met you, you didn't like me. Do you remember this?
I do.
And it was a time in my life when I kind of needed somebody to kind of smack me down a little bit. And I kind of appreciated that you didn't let me get away with kind of some of my bullshit, for a lack of a better word. And that to me made a big difference. Tell a little bit about when you first met me, kind of, and what your
we have a cocky, arrogant little guy coming over from Murray, which we put people from baseball Murray on our Wheaties in the morning at Bingham, but nothing does at this point. They play this little. They're parked at Murray Place baseball. It's about the size of this room, so you can home run out anytime you want. It's funny that you brought that up tonight, because I actually felt at that time that you were looking for something like that. I didn't necessarily want to be the volunteer, but it happened to be me that had to say, "Nah, that's not the way we do it here." Da 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 da. Knocking on wood when I would go home, saying to my wife, I'd go, "Man, I ripped on Jimmy today. Maybe I went a little bit too far." She goes, "Were you fair in what you said?" I said, "Yeah." "Were you honest in what you told him?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, he'll figure it out," and we have. So we've been excellent friends ever since then, and I've loved every second of all the trips we've taken and all that kind of stuff. So,
well, one of the things that I love, I don't know if you know, so you told me a while ago that you had a goal to go to every Major League Baseball stadium, and when I found out that there was about 10 you were missing when you first told me this, and I kind of thought to myself, here's a guy that's donated or dedicated his entire life to helping youth at the expense of, a lot of the wealth. If you're a sharp enough guy, whatever you would have gone into, you would have excelled at. So had you gone the business route, you would have had monetary success. And so I kind of just, to me, I was so appreciative of what you did for me, kind of taking me on when I was, I couldn't even hit a fungo, if you remember that. I couldn't hit ground balls to the players. I had to get substituted in several times.
He couldn't throw the ball up and make contact with the bat. So I jumped his case and go, "What the
I struck out more hitting ground balls to your third baseman than I did as a senior in high school." But I just appreciated really that you guys, put that effort towards me. And so I wanted to repay you. So we went to Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati,
Football Hall of
Oakland.
Fame. Football Hall of Fame, all in one weekend.
Yes, we did do all those in one weekend.
Oakland.
Yep, Oakland, and there's something else in there I'm missing. But anyway, what a great time we've been able to have.
That one trip when we went to those 4 places, I don't think we slept.
Yeah, no, well, we hit a Cleveland game in the morning at 10 a.m., my team, and then we drove and hit Pittsburgh that night. And the next day we hit the Hall of Fame in Cincinnati.
Unbelievable.
Right? Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So, so for coaches, people listening to this, there's coaching Little League or whatever it is, what makes a great coach? What is it that separates you in the Coaching Hall of Fame versus maybe the coach that just isn't necessarily getting it for the right way?
I think sometimes it's not just a coaching thing. I think it's a parent thing too. I think sometimes people try to be too close with their kids and or their players. I was not put on earth to be my son's best friends. I was put on earth to be their mentor and their father, and sometimes you have to call a spade a spade. It's interesting you asked me that today, because I had talked to 2 young teachers today, and they said, how can you be considered, for lack of a better word, hard ass at Bingham High School, but when kids are leaving my class to come to yours, they start putting their backpack on about 5 minutes early, and they're in a sprinter's position. I said, well, number one, if they're tardy, they don't get in the room. They stand outside, because I lock the door. I says, but I hope it's out of respect, not out of fear. I treat kids fairly. I think kids can handle discipline. In fact, we had this discussion on Wednesday with all my classes. Kids do not have a problem with being disciplined or called out. They have a problem when you have a favorite and call somebody out, and in my case as a coach, don't call out the jock. I told them the first day in careers, I says, I don't have favorites. I don't like any of you. You're all going to be treated the same. That's the way it is. Of course, they roll their eyes because I'm into the fifth and sixth generation of kids that I've taught at Bingham. So I've had every older brother or sister. They've already warned them, this is how he's going to be the first day. Get through the first day, you're going to be fine. As far as coaching is concerned, I don't think I necessarily know more about baseball than the guy across the dugout, the other dugout, to be honest with you. The X's and O's are very similar. I think one of my strengths is if I say we need to go through that brick wall to win, my kids are going to figure out a way to get through that brick wall one way or the other. I think when you treat them fairly and they know that you love them at all costs, you can say anything you want to them, they'll be fine. So if that helps people in general, then so be it. I just think there has to be a real fine line between the head coach and the players. I'm a little closer with the players of baseball than Joe is, but that's my role, and that's not Joe's role. When I coach basketball, God, my girls loved our assistants. They didn't like me every day. Mm-hmm. I'm the one that makes you have to do the sprints when you think you're going to throw up. I don't care if you're going to throw up. We have to learn how to play a 32-minute game, etc. So I think maybe that's what would separate if there was something.
Well, and kind of to tag team that question a little bit, I mean, you see so many different types of kids because you teach 7 periods, and you actually teach a new set of kids every quarter because yours is the careers class. Is that correct? And so, I mean, having taught so many kids, met so many kids, what advantages does it have for a kid to play the sport versus a kid that maybe doesn't have that structure, that dynamic to be able to interact that way?
Well, you summed it up by saying the word discipline. You know, you have to be to practice on time. You have to wear the same stuff every time, and that's one thing that Coach Sotto's put into his thing as I have in basketball. You know, you don't have your gear there, you run. I had a girls basketball team one year, 2007, when I won my last state championship. They can't. If you're missing any part of your gear, it's 40 laps before I'll talk to you. So they come out, and Megan Marks, who signs at BYU and 31 ACT and the whole bit, she has the wrong shorts on, and I start running, everybody. So we get the coaches at half court. We're talking about how this doesn't sound right. A 31 ACT. She's the one without shorts. Megan, get over here. Megan, what's the problem? She goes, you won't believe this, coach. She goes, I forgot my shorts. I said, okay, really? Really? 31 ACT and you forgot your shorts. Start running. We go, that's a lie. I call over Stephanie Sampson, my other captain. I said, what's the problem? She goes, you're not going to believe this, coach. She says, but I forgot my shorts. I go, really? How come Megan's got them on? She goes, I don't know. She just took them and put them on before I did. I said, okay, start running. So then I got to my last captain, Jessica Palmer. She's a little more fragile. I can get under her skin a little easier. I said, Jessica, do you want to tell me about the problem with the shorts? And she goes, you're not going to believe this, coach, but I forgot my shorts today. Okay, why in the Sam heck is Megan the one wearing the shorts? She goes, ever tried to argue with somebody 6'3"? They were not going to tell me who was doing this, who wasn't doing this. My guess, some freshman had made a mistake. So they're going to take the heat for the freshmen.
Somebody else had forgotten their shorts.
Absolutely. So the 3 captains are going to volunteer. But I will also say this. When practice is over, someone's going to get a verbal licking in that locker room from those 3 captains. We told you not to do this. We told you how he's going to react. We told you he's going to yell at us, not you. Don't forget your stuff. So I tried to build all kinds of team things into every drill that we do, every sleepover they have. Wednesday nights when they have their meetings and they have their spaghetti nights, I try to make sure that those things are in place so when we get to the game, you've got real good chemistry with each other. And
wow, that's great. What a great lesson, though.
I think
what great captains. And I mean,
yes.
Captains, the one thing I learned, Coach, I only coached 3 years with you guys, but the number one thing that I learned is the team is going to go with the leaders of the team.
Absolutely.
If your best players are your leaders and they're leading by example, you're going to have a successful season.
Well, the year you were there was 2011, and we had a guy named Stephen Cantwell, who is the ex-quarterback now at Weber State. In fact, the Weber State was on campus the other day, and they just glowing report on Stephen Cantwell.
You won't find a better kid than Stephen Cantwell.
He was the first guy out to practice. He had the batting cage set up before anybody else had even got out of the locker room. He's the last guy to leave every day. And he said, when we jump, and we jumped, you got to have that guy that's going to not be afraid to call a spade, but also be really respectful with his teammates.
Yeah. So what was the worst moment you had in get a little vulnerable with this here? What was maybe your worst moment in as a coach?
The worst moment?
Do you have like a worst moment or like just something
No,
that you just
I have a
hated
worst
happen?
moment. My worst moments happen once a year. It's when I have senior night at my school. And my kids are playing their last game at Bingham High School as a girls basketball player. And I'm hard on them yearly. When it gets down to the end, though, and I've got to talk about these 8 seniors I had in 2013. And as tough and ornery as I can be, I got tears. I can't even get my voice to even get into the microphone because I've had these kids in kindergarten. I've had years with those girls that are leaving, had babysat my sons. They're like my own bloody daughters.
Right.
So to me, that's the worst part is having to say goodbye to them. 2008, Nate pitches, my son pitches, we're 2-0. Timpanogos is 2-0. He pitches against them. We get beat 7-3. We go through the tournament. We get back. It's the finals. It's us and Timpanogos again. We had to use everybody else to get back there. Nate's got to pitch against him again, and Nate gets beat by him 7-2 again. That was hard. On the flip side, I would rather have it be my son that ends up struggling than I would somebody else's son. My son's tough enough to handle it, and he's obviously now a college baseball coach, so he learned how to deal with getting punched in the nose or adversity or however you want to say it.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. What was your best moment as a coach? Was it the Taylorsville game? Tell us a little bit about that game, because that's my favorite story to hear you
It's
talk
a good
about.
one. Taylorsville, and I'm trying to think what year that had to
2003.
be. 2003. We had beat Taylorsville earlier in the tournament, so now we're back to us with no losses and them with a loss. They got to beat us twice.
Championship game.
Championship game. They got to beat us twice, though. So they're up. It's bad. They're pitching their ace, Barbin, who ends up being the player of the year, and they've got us beat 10-1. And so people are leaving the stands at UVU to go get lunch and come back for the second game. Well, you take some of us players out, and we get a walk here, and we get a flare there, and we get a single here, and an error there. My gosh, it's 10-6, but everybody's left. We got guys on second and third. There's a ground ball up the middle. The shortstop goes, gets the ball, reverse pivots, throws to first, takes him offline. First baseman catches the ball, goes to make the tag, looks at the first base umpire who hesitates and said he missed him. And I scored the guy from third and I scored the guy from second. So now
As they were confused watching the play.
Absolutely.
First. Okay.
Not paying attention. So now it's 10-8. Well, now they start bringing their guys back in because you have this reentry.
This is the last inning, right? I mean, they pulled their guys out for
This is the sixth.
Okay.
And they start pulling their guys. Now they're putting them back in the game since the momentum switched. We get a flare and a walk, and they bring Barbin into pitch now.
The MVP of the state.
MVP of the state. You don't know that yet, but he ends
Sure,
up being it a week later.
Yeah.
They bring him into pitch, and he's 92 miles an hour. Our one guy that has any power at all, Brett Boyd, and I are standing between home and third. And we're just kind of standing there. What are you going to do? And he goes, what do you think he's going to do? I says, I think he's going to try to get you to swing at something you don't want to swing at. But I'm going to tell you right now, if he gets behind the count, his mentality as a bulldog is to, my fastball's better than your swing's going to be. I says, sit on that fastball when he gets behind in the count. Well, the first pitch is a slider in the dirt. So we're 1-0. The freaking next pitch, he hits it out of BYU, and we're ahead 11-10. So now we bring Jangar into the game. Now, Jangar is the best pitcher in the state. In my opinion, Barbin's darn good, don't get me wrong, but Jangar was really good. You only get 14 innings in a week. He's already pitched 9. He's got 5 left. What if we lose? Now we don't have him for
You can't pitch him for all of them.
Let's roll the dice. We bring him in, and they're at 9, 1, 2, 3, Barbin. We do not want to pitch to Barry Bonds in this case. This is the problem. What's Jangar do? He's so jacked up. Okay, typical left-hander. Hats like this, shirt tails out, the whole bit. Comes in, he walks the number 9 guy on 4 pitches. I call timeout, I go to the mound, and I'll just change the wording of the situation. Please throw a strike. There was a few other adjectives and stuff. Okay? 11 pitches later, the game's over. He strikes out the next 3. They can't touch him and leave Barbin standing on the on-deck circle. We win the state championship. So that was really fun.
Wow. What's that feeling as a coach to see the players come back from a down 10-1, game's basically over, come back and win? What was that feeling like?
Well, it's a feeling that happens at Bingham quite a bit because you've been there enough to know what's Bingham magic.
Just makes weird things happen.
It happened last year. Lone Peak has us beat 11-1. Seth Corey's pitching for Lone Peak. Was that last year or the year before?
I think it was 2 years
Maybe it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago. He's got us beat. He signs for $1 million. I mean, we're in trouble. And one thing led to another, and next thing you know, we win 14-13. That's minor magic. So it happens.
That's pretty awesome.
That was fun.
So what's the difference between the teams that you've had that are championship teams versus the teams that just never really got it together? What's the biggest? Give us an idea of some of the differences.
I think the main difference is the teams that win consistently are the ones that put everybody else above themselves. We've had years where we couldn't get everybody on the same page, and our record reflected that. The years when you have Cantwell that won't let anybody step out of line, even the year we had Dane and Farnsworth and those guys, we didn't win it, but it was the most fun ever because whether you were hitting 210 or 400, you were pulling like heck for every guy on your team. That's maybe separates good records versus average records.
So what do you do if you feel like your team's not cohesive, they're not getting along? What are some things that you guys do to try to help bring that out in the team?
Well, you have your team meetings and try to stress that. You have your one-on-one meetings with the people you think are causing the situation, but you also have your one-on-one meetings with the other guys and try to get them to understand that to be a true leader, you might have to call somebody out once in a while and just tell them this isn't going to fly. Look how we're doing. We're getting beat because you won't get on the same page, etc. Good or bad, brag or not brag, I've been captain of every single team I've ever been on. I guarantee not everybody liked me. But nobody was ever going to backtalk to me because I outworked all of them. You can't be lazy and then call somebody out.
Well, the crazy thing that I saw, even just coaching underneath you guys would have a spray chart for every single kid from the other team, and they would go back to like their freshman year. So you literally would like be able to position the players. And I can't tell you how many times a ball was hit to a place that you guys had just moved a kid to, right? I remember the year, I think it was 2010, our first or second round game was against Jordan. And 4 pitches into the game, you and Joey had already figured out how they were calling their pitches. Their pitching coach in the dugout, if his hand was on the fence, it was a fastball. If it wasn't, it was a curve. So we literally called out every pitch the entire game, and it ended up being a little bit of a barn burner. It was like 13-9 or something. We needed to score all those runs to win, you know. So you guys were always looking for the advantage, always doing your homework, paying attention to all those little minute details. And it was just, for me, it was like I saw how you treated it like a business.
Yeah, well, it's no different than what you do with your business, Jimmy. The reason you're so successful is you don't leave anything to chance. You have everything covered. That's what we try to do. Yeah. You're talking about spray charts. I mean, if you see a guy whose ground ball base hits are between short and third, but his lineouts are right center, just take your shortstop, move him that way, put the center fielder that way, and play the odds the best you can. Yeah, you're right. You could probably pull it in the other thing, but if you have enough at bats starting with their freshman year, you have something you can rely on when the time comes. That's why you're so successful in your business. And everybody that is under your mentorship, I don't think you've treated them any different than we would have treated you. I think there's probably guys that work under you. You've had to have a one-on-one and come to Jesus discussion, and they better be going like this.
Yeah, there's definitely
what's the same
times
thing
when you have to have those.
Yeah, it's the same thing as coaching. Sometimes you're gonna have to call them a spade.
So who's a coach that you really look up to and admire, and why? Like who did you try to model yourself after a little bit?
I don't think I tried to model after anybody. I've taken the best of each guy that I know. Mm-hmm. This is probably going to blow people away, but I'm a supporter of Bobby Knight. He's a no-nonsense.
I think anybody that knows you, that doesn't really blow them away too much. I mean,
it's no-nonsense, and tuck your shirt in and go to class and don't have tattoos and treat women with respect and bust your butt. I don't think there's any other way to do this. I think that's the right way.
So do you think that there's a difference now? I mean, having that kind of mentality, do you think there's a difference between kids now versus kids from, say, 20 years ago? I mean, you hear about so much like, oh, kids nowadays are this, or millennials are this. What's your opinion?
I don't personally think there's any difference. I think kids are the same kids they were 20 years ago. I think the parents have changed. I think... Speaking from experience, I think that if your kid was going to walk across Bangor High School or Bangor Freeway at 5:30 in the afternoon blindfolded at 4 years old, you might want to stop them. But at the flip side of it, in the high school level, I'm getting emails from parents about kids' grades. What happened to the 16-year-old coming to me? I was watching 2020 a while back. This girl at Cornell, 21 years old, A student, had got a C+ from a professor. So it shows her on 2020 calling the professor because everybody's got each other's cell phone. And she says, hold on a second, my mom wants to talk to you. You're 21 years old and mom has to talk for you? This is what we're dealing with. I think if I was still coaching, I think I could coach the same way I coached it when I was coaching before.
What was your role when you coached as far as parent interaction, things like that?
If your parents talk to me, I have two options. I can sit you on the bench, or I can sit your parents on the bench. I had 24 years of coaching varsity basketball here at Bingham, and I had one email in 24 years.
Yeah.
I was a little aloof, which I think is good, and that goes back to what my dad told me. My dad asked me when I was going into coaching, he says, "How good do you want to be?" I said, "Well, I'm going to try to be as good as I can." He says, "Okay, I got a suggestion for you." I go, "What's that?" He says, "Marry the perfect wife. Because if you're smart, that's all you're going to have." You think about it. I can't hang out with the parents and go to dinner with them. Because the minute I go to dinner with the parents of this post over here thinks she didn't play because you greased my palm.
Right.
No. Now, after they've graduated, then I can go out to dinner with them. But I've got the perfect wife for me. I'll say I don't have friends. I can't have friends during the season. I have to be calling a spade all the time.
You mean friends amongst the team?
Can't be friends with the parents of the kids I'm coaching. Can't. And that included when my boys were playing and I had all-stars or whatever. I wasn't friends with any of them because the kid that you went out to dinner with their parents the night before, who's your 4-hole hitter, has 0 for 7 with 7 strikeouts. He ain't hitting fourth no more. Right. And it just makes it more difficult when you're friends with that parent.
Well, I think it's so good to like let the kid too. If the kid has an issue, that's such a growth experience for him to go talk to you, right? I remember,
Absolutely.
I remember a couple of lessons I had in my high school baseball playing days. I had to go to the coach one time. I'd been hitting really well, been playing really well, and then he benched me one game, and I remember trying to get the courage to go talk to coach. He wasn't very approachable either, not during season at least. And, but I was like, you know what? I need to go do this. I want to play. I need to figure out why I'm not playing. And I went and I talked to him and, he looked at me and he goes, "I just literally gave you a day off. You're fine." But it was like that experience alone to muster the courage
Absolutely.
to go do that. And, as I kind of built my career, I kind of have come across a lot of people that are in positions that are much higher than me or people that are looked upon as I'm very much should be a little bit intimidated by them or whatever, and I really don't feel that when I go talk to whether it's politics, business, anything, right? And I think a lot of that comes from like when I was a kid going and having those tough conversations and doing that,
building that confidence that it can be you and mom and dad don't have to do it for you.
Yeah, 100%.
Exactly right.
100%.
So
what do you recommend for parents these days then? Because I've seen the way that you've raised your kids and you do have a beautiful relationship with your wife. What's some advice you have to parents that maybe their kids maybe they see that he's not exactly going the route that they want? What would you tell parents? Like some parental advice for them as a guy that has been around thousands and thousands of high school kids?
In Utah, you have to play your sport when you're younger in your area. So my son Nate played football in the area that we live. And it was not the best situation as far as that sport was concerned. So mom and I at the games would sit away from everybody else so I could tell her, "God, that coach, he just really doesn't know what he's doing," etc. But I never said a word to Nate about it. Let Nate figure out how to deal with this. The funniest thing about it, Nate loved his coach.
Nate's your son, for those.
Nate's my son. He loved his coach. I knew he wasn't going to play for that coach because he was coming to Bingham eventually. But at the same time, if there was some kind of adversity or something, a problem with the teacher, I would just tell him, "Well, go deal with the teacher. I ain't dealing with it. You got a problem with your teacher, you go talk to your teacher about it. You got a problem with your coach, you go talk to him. Stay out of the way, sit in your lounge chair and enjoy the 4 years that the kids are playing high school sports." Leave it at that.
Well, it sounds so simple, but it's so profound to just let a kid take on that responsibility and really have to take.
Okay, here's where parents get carried away. Not to cut you off, Jimmy. For every 1,000 kids that play high school baseball, one's going to play college. Out of every 1,000 that play in college, one's going to get drafted. Out of every 1,000 gets drafted, one's going to make it to the big leagues. Your odds are not very good. So why don't you just enjoy the 4 years? You're not going to the big leagues anyway.
Sure.
Yeah, I see too many parents. Most of the time, the ones that are doing it are the ones that are trying to relive through their child.
Sure.
And they weren't very athletic.
Yeah.
The guys have been around athletics enough. Hey, I work with them on the weekends, trying to make them as good as I can. But after that, you're on your own.
No, I think that's great advice. So what's next for you? I mean, are you going to be able to actually step away from coaching and teaching after all these years?
I don't think I can step away from coaching. I really don't.
Okay.
I think we're not sure what we're going to do right now. The plan is to maybe spend 5 to 6 weeks in a row during the monsoon season in Oregon, where my granddaughters are, because they just finished 17 straight days of rain, haven't seen the sun. And in Oregon, it doesn't sprinkle, it rains.
Yeah.
Can I handle that? If we can't, then I have some opportunities to go coach some other places. I wouldn't mind Mesquite, to be honest with you, but we could travel more to Oregon. Good friend of mine coaches Dixie's women, and I think that I could probably go. If we do go to Oregon, Nate knows, my son Nate knows one of the high school coaches in Salem.
So you're going to stay in coaching for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I and this isn't about me being good or bad. I think I want to stay with the coaching part of it to offset however all these parents are doing it. I think kids need to hear it straight up. This is what I was talking about with these two. These are two really good guys, you can tell.
Yeah, my camera guys are referring to.
Yes, your camera guys. They're really good kids. And you can tell that they've been disciplined. That's why they're as good as what they do.
No, it's true. And I think that the more people like yourself involve themselves, the better off. I mean, you look at Bingham High School baseball players when they're done. So many of them that I coach too. I mean, they're just great guys. They're great kids. It's one of the biggest benefits I had of coaching at Bingham is, like I saw it down the road. It was funny because before I started coaching high school baseball, I kept hearing, like the youth this now, the youth are this, they're not the same. And I got here and I was laughing to myself. I'm like, these kids are much better people than I ever was. We were little shits in high school, you know, in our own little way. But it was like and it really gave me a lot of hope for the future and just the younger generation. So I always kind of get bugged when people are like, oh, millennials are soft or this different thing. And there's definitely some things that I think are different about the way they were raised.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, I think a lot more of it is the responsibility of the parents and the coaches and things like that. And so I think it's invaluable to have somebody like yourself, a Hall of Fame coach, to stick around as long as you can. So I think that'll be well received.
I appreciate that. And like I said, I'm trying to just give back. And I ask our kids, you don't have to get me anything at the end of the season. I don't care about any of that. How about you pay it forward to the next set of kids and teach them what we've taught? One of my bragging rights, I have 11 girls that have played for me. They're high school coaches.
Wow, 11. You're a tree of coaches now.
That's and they're running it the same way we ran it. Now, they get frustrated at times because you're dealing with a different set of parents. The kids are the same kind of kids.
Yeah.
So.
That was pretty awesome. Yeah. Well, it's commendable. Again, 9 state championships, 4 high school baseball at Bingham, 4 women's basketball at Bingham, 1 baseball at Waterford. Is that correct?
Yes.
And 2016 inducted into the Hall of Fame here in Utah?
Yes.
Well, it's a pleasure, Rand, and you are one of my favorite human beings. Whenever I need some parental advice, you are a guy I come to, so thank you. And
does that include when I talk to you at Petco, too?
At Petco? Should we tell the story when I thought you were going to kick me off the team?
No. We'll tell the story when this is on.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate you. Love you, man.
I appreciate it, and I've enjoyed this.
Thanks, Rand.
Thanks, Jimmy.